Welcome to Mental Health Monday. We are here for another time with you, and today we're going to be talking about therapy and real life practice, insight versus integration, which is very important and very important to know the information that we give out, as well as what we're going to say at the top of this podcast, just to remind people that we are just real life people giving you advice through what we've learned and giving out the best relatable information that we have digested and regurgitating to you. By no means are we professionals, but at that same time, that's what makes us a relatable podcast so that we can talk from people that have normal lives and not a celebrity or been in crazy movies or some doctors and everything else, where we know a lot of things just from our years on this earth. So, with that in mind, we encourage you to get any help that you may need and reach out to any areas that you can reach out to the best you can help yourself. We're here as a guide to be as relatable as we can be and give you the best information that we can give you from our own hearts and our own honesty. So, without further ado, I'm going to throw it over to the lovely Anna, and we're going to start, and she's going to give us a little bit of an insight what we're going to be talking about today.
Thank you, Bryon. So, on previous episodes, we spent some time talking about building awareness of our nervous system, our patterns, and how they show up in different relationships. So, at a certain point, a real common question comes up. I know it did for me. It's like, okay, so I understand this now. Why is it still so hard to change it? What do I do next? So, today we are discussing insight versus integration. Once we have that insight, how we integrate that knowledge into our daily lives.
Yeah, it's very important because what we'll learn through all of this is what insight that we learn about ourselves definitely helps us build the building blocks to be able to integrate it into our lives. And we'll be speaking a lot on the terms of just getting to know yourself and learning things about yourself, because what we're going to be talking about today is not that the insight's going to change what's going on with you, but it gives you the best possible way to look at and give yourself like the proper equations to figure out where we go with this information. What does this information mean? So, what therapy really does is helps you see what insight you can get about yourself. It's a very safe space to talk to somebody. I know there's online, there's in person, and it's good to talk to somebody that's not somebody that you regularly talk to. So that's what a therapist really does, is tries to get you to understand what you're saying, maybe in simpler terms, but it's really just a personal thing that really helps you reflect, give you some perspective, and helps you name those emotions that we talked about and what maybe you come into contact with when you have certain interactions or relationships, and what your nervous system is feeling a certain way.
So, yeah, what you're saying about therapy too is they're also coming from a place where they didn't know you before. So, they don't have any preconceived information or any opinion about you, any background information about you. So, they don't have any opinion formulated. And they're coming from a very, like you're saying, a non biased perspective, a professional perspective. And then the insight that you gain from therapy gives you awareness, having language for the different experiences, really any kind of information about any of the stuff, having a word to associate with it, any words to associate with the different experiences, and then also helping coming from that non-biased perspective to understand, to see, help you see your patterns, origins, responses, and understand all of this. So really helping to help you organize thoughts and name those different experiences to identify.
Yeah, it really helps to speak to somebody, and definitely the non-bias thing is a really big deal. I think it goes without saying, but it's definitely important to reiterate, is when you're speaking to a therapist, they are taking you at face value and listening to you and basing things off of what you're saying rather than what you may perceive about yourself or preconceived notions and things like that. So that clean slate is definitely very important. And they, because they have degrees in these things and have understanding, is where they can direct you to and to help you navigate. So insight is something you definitely gain through therapy, and they also can help you find directions and give you a path to try because like we said, this whole mental health journey is trying and trying again. So they'll have plenty of different ways that they think off your personality or what you're saying that give you tools to try to help you. So
Yeah, yeah, really having that outside perspective to help you look inward along with you and really help you to see clearly and where insight is and can feel like progress, it's not the whole picture. And that's kind of where the integration comes in.
yeah, absolutely, because insight alone, like we were saying, is a key factor. You need to find out your emotions, what you're feeling, why your nervous system reacts, why we freeze, fawn, fight, fright, all the good stuff, because then it kind of directs us to where we need to lean and to find inward of why we're going to those things. So insight alone does not change the narrative overnight just because now you know why you're acting a certain way. And but don't get discouraged on that. That's what I want to point out by saying that. Don't get discouraged because you learn things, you spent time on learning what's going on with you, why you feel certain ways, and what could have caused this. Those are important things because at certain points, when you get further along in your journey, you have to heal those things. And for you to heal anything, you got to understand what you're healing. So there's a very big reason that we learn a lot about ourselves because when we, like I say, at the end of the day, there's only one person left after everything happens, and it's yourself. So you got to know yourself and you got to know what is important in situations like this to be able to talk about it. And then a lot of times, people, since we think in our brains so much, when we speak out loud, we hear things and we catch things that we're saying rather than thinking them or writing them down when you're speaking them out loud. I know with my therapist, I'll say things and then realize how it sounds by projecting it out of my head, out of my voice, and
Mhm.
then hearing it back is something that is like she's going to say exactly what I said back to me only because she's making sure that she understands what I'm saying, but also you understand what you're saying to them. So there's like really direct contact, which is very big. But then we take that knowledge and we start to put it into practice, the integration of finding out why we're feeling this way, where we're taking things, why we're reacting in certain ways. So I don't know if you have anything to say to that, but that's how I feel about therapy. It's very nice.
Yeah, and you mentioned it before. They can help work with you on a game plan as to how to put it into practice, what it may look like for you in your daily life, just different suggestions on how to put it into practice, but the actual doing of it and that creating small habits. Everything really starts with small habits, right? And doing that consistently. So working to create a game plan and putting that into practice and creating those habits, but it's us that we're the ones that need to actually put those things into practice, and to really adjust it according to what each moment may look like. You may have a solid game plan and you have everything kind of like figured out. Okay, I'm going to do this. This person's going to, if they say this, then I'm going to do this. But that may all fly out the window when you actually are working with somebody. And so that's where just having that repetition really is important.
All right. And one thing I want to point out about what you said that needs to be heard is repetition. That's definitely something that we have to learn through little changes because once we start to learn ourselves, we can catch these things that we do we don't like or reactions we don't like. So we put a plan. Either you come up with one or you get help through a therapist of trying to change your reactions, trying to learn about yourself, and then you'll be able to take plans like, hey, I didn't react so well when I see so and so in life, and it really matters to be able to say, hey, next time I'm gonna put my best foot forward and try to not get angry with this person or feel a certain way about this person before anything even happens. You gotta do repetition of that. And the one thing that we'll find is what we always find in this journey is we fail and we fail again. So we can talk about things. You can talk about it to your therapist. I'm going to be this tough, strong person to this person and be this like bright new character that's since I know what my problem is now, it doesn't happen like that. It takes repetition, it takes time, And one thing that is key with the therapy and integration and information and just learning is that these things take time, and therapy is really talking it out, but you can't replicate a real life situation. So when you run into the person you're talking to your therapist about and saying, "Hey, I really don't get along with a coworker," you're still going to see the coworker, and you can't get down on yourself, but just understand that it's a process, and it's the best way to go about it is to go through it and go through it again and fail. But once you keep going, you start to learn and go, okay, this time I was better. It's just, it takes time. Everything takes time. And once you get to a better space, but you're talking about it helps because you're learning about it. And then you're knowing why you're getting upset. And then as you integrate it into your daily life, if it's a daily situation or every once in a while, when you run into that, you know more about it and you know where to stop yourself or to correct yourself. And then it becomes easier because we do these things repeatedly. So the repetition comes in and it's not so hard to do because you start to do it. And that's the real trick to all this stuff is once you start to do it, even if you fail at first, it becomes easier because you continue to do it.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of book smart. You gain knowledge from books, from going to classes, from instruction from a teacher, and then it comes to actually applying that knowledge. It's the same kind of concept. So getting that information, helping to fully understand what it is that you're learning, and then going out into the wild and,
Yeah.
and applying it in your day-to-day life.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big things here is real life practice and just
Mhm.
knowing that it's not going to go smoothly every time, but to know that you're putting in the effort to make that change or to approach things differently is really how you integrate it into daily life. And even if you aren't doing the best, you're going to be able to have time to think about it. That's the thing. It's like we hit these walls, we hit these times where we get frustrated or it's not coming out the way we want it to. But when we start to integrate it to every day with boundaries, with practices, or just knowing yourself, those walls become shorter and we can jump over those things. That's just how this works. And then we get to find out like, hey, like in conversations, I was kept really just grounding myself while talking to somebody, being like, hey, it's okay. Like I'm gonna live after this conversation. So even if it's hard in the moment, we got the moment after to breathe. So we
Yeah.
always will face things, but it's great to be able to talk to somebody about how you can approach it, which is your therapist thing. But then when you put it into real life practice, is your integration into your life. So there's the benefiting factors here of knowing, finding out how you want to be and what you don't like about your situation. And then you take that and you do little increments of this is how I'd like to be. And then it works in, and then you can find out how you're feeling after, and then you build the confidence to be able to do that repeatedly. Like if I have a argument with a spouse or coworker or friend, I have the tools because of how long and how much journey of I've gone through that I can take a second back and breathe and think about it. But how many times I've failed doing that to get to a place where I can do that, I still fail at times. It's just how life works. You're never going to be perfect. You're never going to hit 100 out of 100. Even if you're Larry Bird, you're still going to miss a shot here and there. So we need to understand that so you don't get so hard on yourself, but you use the tools to move forward and be better version of yourself by recognizing what's you're doing wrong and what you can do right. And shift doesn't happen overnight and it doesn't happen right away, but it helps everything
Mhm.
else and it opens up and it kind of widens your world of, hey, I can do this. And then you can kind of believe in yourself because you see the incremental space that you create for yourself. So the nervous system, we feel it. We got to understand that failing is discomfort and standing up for yourself sometimes when you're not used to that. If people aren't going to react the way that you talk to somebody like a therapist, like you're hoping they're gonna. That's why real life practices are a lot different than therapy because you can talk to your therapist. I'm gonna talk to my spouse like this, and then you see your spouse and you do not talk like that. So the real life practice is real big, but we got to understand the discomfort leads to comfort, because
Mhm.
the old saying is, whatever higher being or whatever has made you uncomfortable, so you move. You got to move, but once you move, you start to feel more comfortable because you're used to moving. And this is where this comes in. We can regulate ourselves and understand, why am I feeling this way? Hey, I did better this time. Like, hey, I tried harder.
Yeah, yeah, it's like going to perform, whether it's performing in any capacity, and that could be speaking in a meeting. It could be
Yeah,
speaking one on one with somebody that you're nervous to talk to. It could be performing on a stage. There's a lot of emotion that comes up when you are in a situation that's outside of your comfort zone. Emotion, pressure on yourself a lot of the time, relational dynamics if you're working with somebody else or even with an audience, having that relation with the audience, having that audience interaction. So there's a lot that comes into play and a lot of different feelings during that time. And so, no, you're not going to get it perfect the first time or the first many times,
yeah,
probably. But if you're able to take that back and kind of screenshot it in your head, especially, then you can see, okay, well, I did this. That's a good step forward. I can tweak this, I can adjust that, kind of like you're watching film. You're able to take that back and say, "Hey, good for me. I did that. I stood up for myself. I did this. I did that correctly, like how I wanted to. And here's some areas that I can tweak." And like you're saying, the more that we do it, the more that it tells our nervous system, "Hey, this is safe. This is acceptable. This is like the new pattern. This is the new norm for you." And we're able to implement that on a regular basis.
yeah. And I think one important key phrase that we can put out there is that therapy is where you learn, and then life is where you put it to practice. And
Yeah.
nothing's more true than that. I mean, there's a lot of truth to that. We want it to be fixed overnight or just be healed right away. These things take time. And just understand, like, I've been in therapy in and out and consistently for the last 4 years or so of in therapy, and I don't I don't miss therapy often, even if I'm feeling fine, feeling good. We always find something to talk about, and it always helps. Like, when I leave, I feel better every time, because A, I'm talking about things I don't normally talk about, and then B, it's just good to talk out loud. Like I said, there's great tools that we can do, journaling, talking to friends, but when you get a different type of safe space like a therapist, it can create emotional safety, and they support you feeling regular and understood, because that's what we do as humans, is try to be seen, heard, and we have a place to do that. Therapy is really helpful in that. And then there's two sides of the coin. You need somewhere where you can take your learning and put it into practice, and then see how it works in different dynamics. Maybe you start to take these boundaries or how you want to treat certain relationships and try it on different relationships, that maybe that'll help you out. We try and we learn and we fail, we succeed, but when we start trying, we're trying to help ourselves. So
Yeah. Yeah, and even outside of therapy, like if you don't have a therapist, if you are working on things on your own, finding information from various sources, working with trusted people in your life to make different changes, if you're getting that, your sources are different, your sources for support are different than therapy, you still work and practice on it in real life situations. So that's another reason why we cannot heal alone. Not only are we gaining information and like assistance and coaching from others and other sources, but we're also having to integrate using other sources, so other people in different scenarios, because every person's different, every dynamic in different relationships are different. So having that information and bringing it in, processing it internally, and then practicing it outside of the internal processing, everything else all involves other people. So you can't just go out onto the mountaintop and heal alone. Yeah, that may be part of it, but there really needs to be that practice that shows, hey, this is where I'm at. It gives that threshold and it gives that barometer as to gauge and see, okay, where am I at? Where do I want to be?
Yeah, and it does help to talk to other people. I mean, therapist is a great thing. I know nothing's easy, and there's always a way to find an excuse, or there is always a reason why we can't get therapy, insurance, money, all that other stuff. But make sure you're talking to somebody. Find somebody you trust and talk to, and you might not get as deep with somebody that you're close to as a therapist, but you speaking and really like putting it out there is showing that you're trying. And depending on how they react, which we would hope they would support you, that's going to help you because, like I said, speaking out loud helps. Even if you're just giving them brief, like, hey, I'm not feeling good today, speaking out loud is important. And we have this podcast, which helps me, and I'm sure it helps Anna. We get to speak on things that we know and things that we've dealt with. So, speaking out loud is like a reminder to me, and I have to tell myself every day that it's not gonna not shooting 100 for 100. So we got to understand there's going to be failure, there's going to be discomfort, but in the reality of being at more peace, it takes time and it takes progress, but it takes a lot of these tools, and that's what we're doing here is trying to give you real life, relatable people that are go through money, stress, bills, relationships, friendships, everything, work, everything. We're some normal people with normal things, and I wish that I had taken therapy way sooner, way more seriously. And but that's where life has led me, and I've taken a lot of trials and tribulations, but it's worth it to be where I'm at, to know that it took time and effort. But doesn't it feel good to do things and find your own success, right? Like that's part of how this will make you feel as well. It's because you're doing the work. They say after college you don't really go to school, but if you're smart, you'll learn that this is school and that you're learning to help and better yourself. So we use those skills like looking up, why do I feel this way? Hey, I'm angry. Why am I angry? There's tools online, there's tools outside of therapy that we can use these days. And we've talked about it before. That's ever changing, which is great. There is a lot of great tools out there that people can go to if they need to. And we support it because we want you to feel just as normal as everybody else in the sense that everybody struggles and everybody needs help from time to time, and we can't do this alone. I think that's something that you've preached here, and I genuinely know that from the bottom of my heart that you need people, and we're better together. It's something I say all the time because we lean on each other when we can't lean on ourselves, and it helps. It helps get us through. So it's very nice to have tools, but understand that as long as you're taking the time to find out about yourself, put some information, start integrating it into your life. It's all about the little steps and the little processes that we use, and we kind of put ourselves in a position to win more than lose, and that's how we get to a better state of mind. So
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned the fear of discomfort, and that's one of several reasons that oftentimes hold us back from moving forward and moving in directions that we want to go. The fear of discomfort, the fear of changing any relational dynamics, wanting to get it right as soon as possible. I mean, who wouldn't? And then expecting change to feel natural immediately. But really, talking about teams, when you go out and you just do the thing, you can do it messy, just make that first step. That is huge. And one step after the next, and you're going to see yourself grow. I know I have grown in so many different ways outside of college. Actually, most of my quote unquote education is just living life
yeah,
and working on myself and working in different areas and just figuring things out and having that support system, whatever it may look like for us. On the good days, then you have somebody to cheer with you. On the not so good days or good moments, then you have somebody to be there for you and support you and maybe give you a little bit of encouraging words. So either way, having that support system on the back end is crucial. And it may be one person, like you're saying, it may be a therapist, it may just be one person that will sit with you, but having somebody to share that journey with, because I think we all want and need somebody, whatever the relationship is, to share our experiences with. A lot of folks are unfortunately missing that in different capacities because they are afraid of opening up a little bit too. And that's another topic, but having that fear of discomfort, going and trying new things, doing new things, testing it out, having that science project to make yourself better in different ways, it's much easier when you have somebody there with you to support you on the good and bad times.
Yeah, because as much as we're gonna pat ourselves on the back when we go through these journeys, it's nice to know when people. I'll be the first to say it out loud, and of course it's on a podcast. But I've seen change in you. I've seen positive change and progress, and it's a beautiful thing. And I love that for anybody that's close to me. I want the best for them. That's one of my. I'm a people pleaser, but at the end of the day, what I really want is for my people to feel good and to feel like they belong, but they also are doing okay. It's hard. Days are hard. Things is hard. Life is hard, but to have somebody go, hey Anna, you're doing great. Like I see you. I know it's hard on certain days. I know it's easier on certain days, but you're doing the work and you're putting in effort, and I see you, and that's important because it's true. And it feels good to have people that can support you. We all have different journeys, different things we're going through. Everybody's got something they're going through. So just a little bit of a cheerleader, like you said, is an amazing thing. And even if it's just somebody that's just going while you're talking, that's still somebody that's listening. Maybe not the fullest, but they're still giving you the time of day. And that's kind of what we're saying is we appreciate the small and the large amount of community and interacting with people because it is important. We do this journey alone, but it's not done alone. It's on ourselves, but it's not done by ourselves is a great way to put it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I've noticed such a huge change in you too over the years, and how you have led and formed different teams and really worked on yourself and have brought your A game in different relationships. It's really awesome to see. And I think just those small steps, seeing from going from, I think reframing some of the language helps, at least it helps with me. Instead of how can I fix this, saying something like, can I notice and try something small? What usually happens in this scenario for me? How can I make this a slightly different outcome? How can I respond slightly differently? And taking those little steps. And one moment a week, one moment in each interaction, or even one moment over time that you can change and you can consistently keep to, that's progress. Any of it is progress, but it builds on, builds on one another, all of it.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think that shouldn't get overlooked. We're saying a lot to you. We should know that putting even just a little bit of effort in is how it starts, right? It's it's all about the small steps that lead to bigger things and bigger steps. And just getting started is where we find the most success because if we don't start, we don't succeed. So the matter of small things to help us put in place, like, hey, like if you're taking the time to think about it, then you're going to put time into thinking how you can do it differently. And then just putting in small things. And then, like I said, we try and try again. If we fail, we may feel uncomfortable. We may feel like, wow, that went way better than I thought. There's always, we have to find out. You have to do trial and error to find out. And doing small steps is how you start. And
Yeah.
understanding and being realistic with yourself, because I know we're our worst critic in the sense of trying to say, hey, this should work and I'm doing it and it should work right now. Like the world of instant everything, including Instagram, it is all instant and all right away, and we got to understand that that's just not how anything that's worthwhile happen in an instant. It does happen over time. So taking small steps in the right direction and giving yourself good advice or just finding out what works for you. That's what we talk about a lot too. It's like, I'm going to try talking to this person in this way this week. All right, back to the drawing board. But you putting in the small steps are where it's going to open it up so that you feel more comfortable because it's going to feel uncomfortable at first. That's what it is. Discomfort leads to comfort because you got to, if you're in bed and you're uncomfortable, what do? You roll around until you're comfortable. It's like the same thing where at first you may be uncomfortable, but you're going to get into a comfortable spot. And that's kind of where we're at with saying integrate it from the information that you've taken, wherever that comes from, researching, talking with friends, therapists, just any sort of way that you choose to find out more about yourself and what you do and don't like about certain situations that we come into contact with. So,
Yeah, yeah. I just thought about an example, say, creating or starting to create micro boundaries with different areas of work. If you have a boss that is constantly putting things on your plate without asking, hey, what do you have going on? Or just kind of you're overcrossing your boundary in that area too, and just taking on the work because afraid to say anything and say, no, I can't do that. But you kind of like what that may look like would be saying, okay, well, I have this and this going on. I can do this, but I don't have time or I can't do that. So saying, yes, I can do portion, but I am not able to do the whole thing. Just different little adjustments like that is what I was thinking as far as taking those different steps. And it will be scary, at least it was for me, trying to say those kinds of things. And because you're in a situation where it's like, okay, the fear of losing your job, the fear of saying, oh, well, they may view me a certain way if I say no. But really trying to create that expectation of what is within your limit so that way you can be the best version of yourself and for others, because it would be doing a disservice to not only myself but to my work if I tried to rush the work and did it subpar, or if I were to turn it in late, etc. So it really is creating those moments to create a better situation for everyone involved.
yeah, putting the knowledge into practice is definitely important, and insight's not wasted. It's the foundation of how we build ourselves up, and understanding that it takes time to build new ways of what we want to be for ourselves and for others. And change really happens when we experience it right in life. It happens in real time. It doesn't happen how many times you tell yourself you're going to be better. It's when you're doing it and then doing it again and then doing it again. And trust me, I've failed so many goddamn times. But I know that the success that I've had has come from finding my own way, finding what works for me and the real situation. And you brought up earlier seeing me excel in certain ways and in different situations and how much better I feel than a couple of years ago and things like that. And that's just a true testament to just I learned a lot about myself, unfortunately and fortunately, and that's really what comes to the surface of foundation and building myself up to learn, okay, I'm not good with that. I should probably lean on something else and try to put myself in a direction that's going to help me and whoever I'm around. So it's all about learning about yourself and using the information as power to make yourself better, unlocking the talent and the real potential of yourself without knowing that you had it before, because you're learning about yourself and you're building up your character. So I feel like that's where I stand with it. I think I fully support therapy. I fully support you just talking and getting it out, and feel like that is important. It's important to speak. It's important to feel like you are creating space for yourself, learning, as much as that may be boring. It's actually pretty cool and it's pretty awesome. It gets scary, it gets tense, it makes you feel uncomfortable. And putting these things into practice will make you feel uncomfortable and feel some things. But like we said, you have to feel your feels. And if you don't feel your feels, you'll feel them later and 10 times as hard, if not 100 times, depending on how much you suppress it. So, by my knowledge, feeling the feels, be sad, be angry, but understand why you're feeling that way. And then it gets easier because, hey, I felt that way. And now I feel like I'm through it rather than around it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think we could probably close it up for today. really summed up that insight helps us to see the pattern, but integration is what begins to change it through repetition. So next week, we, as you know, we have been beginning to practice new ways of responding. It can bring in a deeper question. If it's not just your patterns, if you are not just your patterns, then who are you really? You see yourself and you act in a certain way over time, and that creates an identity really over time. But if you strip that away, those patterns, who are we really? If I'm not the person who is, say, constantly people pleasing, then who am I? And that's what we are planning to discuss next week. So, is there any other closing thoughts that you would like to add?
No, I just look forward to getting into some deeper thoughts and deeper questions about ourselves and understanding that there's a thing called an ego, and we'll get into that. And we're not our ego, and we'll find out that we are just ourselves. And when we find out that and we find out more about ourselves, it's the best way we can move forward. And we'll be diving into that next week. I look forward to that topic. And as always, I love having conversations with you. And for the lovely Anna and for myself, this has been Mental Health Monday, and it's been a lovely time. And I hope that you join us again. And just keep in mind, we're just relatable people. We're not therapists. We're not anybody other than some regular people trying to share our knowledge and our experiences to make you feel like you are deserving of being here and understanding that other people have gone and will go through. And it's just the normal human thing to just go through a lot of the things that we do, and it's better to have knowledge of, hey, I felt that way too, and that's what we're here for, is to be relatable. So till next time, we'll see you next time.
Take care.